So we are now moving to almost the end of our session. So we have about an hour left, and we're going back to this actual agenda. And thank you very much to the panelists and also to some of our sponsors that were kind enough to reorganize their schedule and then to reorganize it back. So we really appreciate that. I am extremely excited about this next panel. And after having heard Gina's beautiful words, I think it means even more. So investing in women's health, and as the definition of women's health is changing, that's becoming more important. So we have 4 fierce leaders, and Jessica Carr, Erica Kramer, Myra Paul, Carolyn McCusker. I just love these 4. Carolyn, I'd be so grateful if you'd introduce yourself and the panel.
Wonderful. Hi, Susan. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Susan, and your team, and thank you, Gina, for that interesting and inspiring keynote. It's such important work that you're doing. So good luck to you. So thank you today for the opportunity to moderate this panel. It's an honor to facilitate this conversation with these 3 women dedicated to advancing women in venture capital. So thank you for all the important work that you do, Jessica, Erica, and Myher. And Jessica, I just want to make sure you had some camera issues or some video issues that you're able to speak.
I think I can speak. It's just the video.
Okay, there you are. Good to see you. Thank you. So let's get to our discussion about why it's important to invest in women's health. And we've heard and learned so much today. It's all such an important conversation. So again, thank you for this opportunity. So women's health tech companies have struggled for years to convince investors just how massive the market potential can be. And then finally in 2020, there's been some breakthrough as the pandemic has buoyed the femtech industry as women have sought digital options for their reproductive and gynecological health needs. And interest and innovation in the sector shows no signs of abating. However, as we have heard today, much more funding is needed to continue to serve the complex, evolving needs of this sector. So I wanted to just get into this conversation, and for this panel, I'm pleased to welcome Jessica Carr, the founding general partner of Coyote Ventures, an early stage fund investing in women's health and wellness, founded by partners who are scientists turned entrepreneurs turned investors. And Myher Apal, an investor at Metadora Ventures, an exciting values-conscious VC firm focused on health and learning business technology. And third, we have Erica Kramer, who's managing partner of How Women Invest, a venture capital firm that identifies high-potential women-led companies by leveraging its professional network of over 14,000 professional women. So welcome to the 3 of you. And I'll start with Jessica. And Jessica, please feel free to give a little more background on Coyote Ventures. But as we have discussed and as we've heard today, the forecasts indicate miles of innovation runway ahead for women's digital health. And the global market for women's health is set at about $1 trillion. And there are massive opportunities for innovation and returns in this sector beyond just fertility and pregnancy. So what do you see as the actual market size and big opportunities for innovation that you're excited about?
Hi, thanks for having me. Super honored to follow Gina, and I am really happy to be here. Lots of our Coyote friendlies here at HIT Lab, whether founders, investors, and some of our partners. So thanks all for coming. And quick background on Coyote. Brittany Barreto started Coyote this year. We just saw so many amazing companies innovating in the women's health space. And as you know, not only do women founders get less VC funding, they have to work harder for it, as well as if you're in women's health, you're also making some of the men maybe uncomfortable by talking about the problems in women's health. And so we saw an opportunity to really support these great innovations as more women are in STEM and in finance and solving for our own problems. So definitely great to keep building this whole ecosystem. So we started Coyote this year. We've made our first 4 investments. And as Carolyn said, we're previous scientists, my background being biochem, early employee at Impossible Foods, and then going into the business and VC side. So super excited to connect with all the great innovators here. And as Carolyn also said, we kept seeing that femtech was quoted to be 50 or 60 billion global market. We said that's not right. Like even menopause could be bigger than that. So some of the methodology we didn't quite agree with. So Brittany really spearheaded this report. We can post the link in the chat in a minute. Basically looking at the ecosystem of what are the conditions that solely, disproportionately, or differently affect women. So obviously solely affecting women would be like menopause, menstruation, but also looking at things that disproportionately affect women like PTSD, and also differently like heart health. And chronic conditions is a huge part in market size. So we just said, like femtech has different definitions for everyone. Everybody kind of argues, is it femtech, is it women's health? And I do want it to be inclusive. So some of the women's health, like endometriosis, might not affect a trans person, but maybe PTSD will. So we want to stay inclusive there. So I'll post the link to the report and just, yeah, excited to be on this panel. Let's see, Brittany got it. Thank you.
Okay, great. Fantastic, Jessica. And yes, I've read parts of that report. It's wonderful work. So kudos to you and your fund for putting all that together, and Brittany, of course, as well. So now, Meher, I'd love to get from you. So there are your insight. There's new and innovative business models. They're beginning to show promise to delivering better care and generating higher returns. So at Metrodora Ventures, like what innovation are you excited about, especially in the care model area? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. As Jessica said, very honored to follow Gina, and I think this question kind of follows that discussion nicely. At Metrodora, to what you kind of just asked about, we are very excited about sort of hybrid care solutions that are both like brick and mortar and tech enabled. As women investors in the women's health space, you kind of understand sometimes that there are certain indications, certain types of care that are not always, suited to only telehealth, right? Certain things need a human touch, need sort of, touch points and, in-person blood tests, ultrasounds, sonograms, all that kind of stuff. And so for us, when we look at women's health solutions, one of the things that we think about is, is this business model the right one to solve this problem? Similar to what Gina pointed out about how her clinics are sort of very welcoming environments, and they're located in dense sort of population centers towards, having an accessible clientele, a diverse clientele. And so things like that, I think, are really important when, for everyone on who's on right now, who is building their own women's health solution and who are entrepreneurs, as you're thinking about, the mission that you're really passionate about, I would encourage everyone to sort of think about, to be more mission obsessed than product obsessed sometimes, I think is very helpful when we see that in founders, at least, because once you know the problem that you're sort of trying to identify, there are a variety of solutions to get there. And so, when we look at, potential pitches, that's something that we think about a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Erica, just to kind of dovetail on that, you're the managing partner of How Women Invest, a venture firm that's always looking at the potential to invest in women-led companies. What are some of the things, or a piece of advice that you would share with the entrepreneurs? We have a lot of new entrepreneurs in our audience today, and as Meher said, the mission is so very important. But what are some other things that you would offer advice on as they begin their career? Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's a pleasure to be here today with you all. Gina's presentation. So important. I'm a mother of a preemie, a 24-week preemie. So 22 years ago, went through that experience and the whole fertility experience. So it makes me super excited to know that there is innovation in birthing, but now I'm dealing with a menopausal state. So I'm experiencing all different ends of the spectrum. So How Women Invest, we're birthed out of a nonprofit network called How Women Lead, very much all about disrupting inequitable systems. We have a 14,000 member network. My partner, Julie Castro-Abrams, very much not only disrupting inequitable systems, but disrupting the corporate boardroom. She helped mandate corporate board diversity in California, and now other states have followed. And now we're using venture as a means for closing the equity wealth gap. Because as we know, and I had my own wealth creation event, and I want the same for each of the founders in this room, that we need venture funding for female-backed companies in order for those wealth creation events to occur and for wealth to be, that gap to be narrowed. We launched with Fund One in 2020. We have 211 LPs in Fund One, which means we have a very supportive and aligned, economically aligned investor base. Some of you who are investors are in this room, I believe. And so for us, healthcare is, and femtech in particular, is super important. Out of the 211 LPs, 90% of our investors are female LPs. So femtech matters quite a bit for us. And we've invested in 2 companies in the health tech arena, one in Fund One and one in Fund Two. One delivers analytics as a service for the healthcare system, so ensuring that quality healthcare is delivered irrespective of demographics. And then in Fund Two, we've invested in a company called Bossa Wellness or Bossa Bars, and they've developed health bars for women in menopausal state because there's huge shelf space, but not a whole lot of product. And so we're very excited to support that. It was a shock to me to learn that the percentage of training in the menopausal state is like maybe 2% of an OBGYN's training that's focused on menopause. So that's something that we seek to support, and we need to have more women on the cap table to develop this. So I'm very excited to be co-investors with Jessica and Coyote and other VCs that are focused, that are specialized. So we're industry agnostic. So having said all that, for female founders, it's super important for you to understand and do your research of the VC funds that you're seeking capital from in the beginning. Do a little bit of research, go onto their website, see what their criteria is. For us, Fund One, it has to be a revenue generating company for Fund One, but Fund Two can be pre-revenue, but beyond proof of concept. Super important to be really organized in terms of data room. I know these are early stage companies and you may not have 10 years of historical financials, but think about what you would invest in a publicly traded company. You want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. So our diligence process, we try to be super efficient with the founder's time and our time by having a very succinct checklist of items that should be in that data room. And then to understand what you're seeking from your VC investor, it's not just capital. We seek to be strategic as well as financial, and financially supporting our portfolio companies. So really understanding what your growth trajectory looks like, and what your financial projections look like when you'll be needing capital. We often find that many of our female founders don't think about a large enough raise early enough, that otherwise you're in this continuous cycle of raising capital over time. And we want to make sure that you're spending your time building your service or solution most efficiently and effectively. So really understanding your financial projections. Sadly, we just had a company that had hired an outsourced CFO. So they thought that they were hiring experts to help build those financial projections. We caught mistakes in their model, and so that was a very expensive mistake because the female founder didn't really have the information to know when she was going to be running out of cash and how much capital she really needed to manage. So be on top of it. Understand build your own simple model with your own cash flow projections. Don't always rely on your outsourced experts.
Thank you for that. And I think that brings up a really important question that was referenced at Hit Lab a couple of weeks ago by a young entrepreneur who was seeking advice on how she can build her team around her and what criteria, and how can she find someone who mirrors what she is trying to achieve and her values. And so I would love to ask you, Jessica, if you have any advice for new CEOs as they build their teams and kind of some criteria as they look to other, to surround themselves with a CFO or other, C-suite roles. If you would offer that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, it is great to have women on your cap table who add value. And I find a lot of the women co-investors do add so much more value. So excited to have more and more women starting their own funds and becoming partners and co-investing. When you're starting out, building your team is like the make or break of a company, really. So it's definitely very, very serious. I would say, yes, sometimes investors want to see co-founders, but I know a lot of sole founders who are totally amazing. I wouldn't want to see them give up so much to somebody that they hadn't really worked with before. So I would say, sometimes it is nice to have, like one of our portfolio companies has 3 co-founders and they've all worked together or knew each other since high school. Not everybody has that exact privilege. So I would say, definitely finding people that you can trust and finding ways that you can build trust. If you are new to each other, super excited about how you complement each other. You can build trust through, working with a coach and really getting down to what values you do share. And just, I would say sometimes I see co-CEOs and I always sort of question like who is the decision maker at the end of the day. And so I would say if you're starting and you do sort of like have that dynamic, you do need to have these difficult conversations in the beginning. Who's the ultimate decision maker? What's your path to exit? See how many, like it's like getting married, you don't want to be getting married and not know like some of these, like do they want a kid, so that would be some of my advice.
Excellent. Thank you. And Meher, for you, when you look at portfolio companies, is there 1 or 2 key things that you and your team are looking at when you're trying to decide which companies to make an investment in?
Yeah, are you referring to the team members still, or just in general sort of metric?
Just in general, yes. Either for the sure. Let's keep with the team thing. I think that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think what was raised earlier, again, by Gina, I believe, with the sort of co-founder dynamic is a really important point, just because, it is getting kind of more difficult and more competitive to sort of raise to build a great startup. And so, honestly, we all need a team around us, and it is really helpful when we see sort of co-founders who have complementary skill sets. I'm sure everyone here has heard that before, with sort of having someone with a more technical background and then someone with, another kind of set of expertise, whether it be sales, business building, or, being the face or the heart of the company. So on the team point, I would definitely say certain things that we look for. There's usually someone who has sort of like the product expertise and the domain expertise that kind of is like like this person we believe in can build a solution in this space, right? And then I think one part that a lot of people kind of don't give as much appreciation to would be sort of the go-to-market side. I think it doesn't necessarily need to be a co-founder, but I do think kind of in the early stages, whether or not, you have revenue yet, or it is helpful to at least have someone thinking through how you will get there, or even better, kind of have a go-to-market person on your team who is starting to build that out, because I think that's something that's pretty important in showing that initial traction that again, as it is competitive to sort of pre-seed and seed fundraise, having revenue is very helpful. And so I think like a go-to-market person, or some sort of person who has thought through the actual execution of a sales strategy is sort of an important point, that is just, very execution driven and very important for early stage teams to have, I think.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And I think we're running out of time here, but Erica, I wanted to throw one more question at you. I know mentorship is a big part of how women invest. And so with all the knowledge and expertise that you've gained to this point where you are today, is there one piece of advice you'd love to have told your 25 to 30-year-old former self?
Don't be afraid to ask. I think as women, we try to do everything on our own. We try to solve all our own problems. We try to develop our own resources. Find yourself in a community that can be supportive. Build your own personal set of advisors as well as your board of advisors, and think strategically about who those members might be.
Fantastic. Well, ladies, thank you again so much for your time and expertise. And I'll hand it over to Susan now. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, Erica, Mayor, and Carolyn. That was just lovely. I appreciate again your being so kind about the schedule.